11 years, I dream and I work.
GH3. Hello, my name is Kevin. I am the Dapper Man. Today I'm going to be reviewing the movie Call Northside 777. It was made in 1948 by director Henry Hathaway and it stars James Stewart. This is a noir film, so I'm doing a continuation of Noir-Vember. This movie is what you would call a docu-noir film. So this is basically like a documentary noir film that has a voiceover narrator that lets you know exactly what's happening in the movie. So this was a very common thing to happen in the 1940s and in certain films in the 50s, but more like late 30s throughout the 40s. In the very beginning of this movie takes no time into letting you know what this movie is about. It is about an actual true event that happened on Frank Whitchick in 1932. So this film takes place in Chicago. It is during the times of Prohibition in America, and a cop has been murdered in Wanda's grocery store that has served as a speakeasy. Now, in case you're wondering what a speakeasy is, because this is not really something of a common word known today, I have my Webster's International Dictionary to help explain what that means. And what the definition of a speakeasy is, according to this dictionary, it is a saloon where liquor is sold contrary to law. Well, that's a much shorter definition than I was actually hoping to give. It is that of a time during Prohibition where they were served in grocery stores, they were served in houses, they were served in different areas that was considered illegal to have liquor because liquor was during a time that it was considered illegal, the Prohibition era. As I was saying, a cop was murdered and someone has been pointed as a suspect, or someone has been pointed as the person who murdered the cop. His name is Frank Whitchick. He has been convicted through the sentencing to serve 99 years for the murder, a murder in which he may have not committed. So fast forward in 11 years, and the article appears in the newspaper with a $5,000 reward, Call Northside 777. Newspaper reporter P.J. McNeil is sent on the case only to find out that it is Whitchick's mother that has worked for 11 years to prove her son's innocence. McNeil doesn't at first buy into this maybe he's innocent, but as his editor pushes him further to investigate into the story, the more things don't seem to add up or be clear. And as he goes even further, it seems people are just trying to cover it up and that something is not really quite right with the testimony and with the accusations being taken place. Now, as I said earlier, this film is directed by Henry Hathaway and the cinematography is done by Joseph MacDonald. For those who are curious about the cinematographer, this is the same duo that was in the movie I did review just last week on. That movie was called 14 Hours. They would return 3 years later making that movie. And they also did the directing and cinematography for Niagara, so that may be the next movie I review. Maybe. But just like in that movie 14 Hours, this movie is pretty much alike in its ways of the camera shots, the way how it looks, the way it feels, and the fact that it has no music almost entirely through the movie, except for the very beginning, the very end, and there's a brief segment, but that's because he's walking in and out of different bars and different places where they're playing music. So this movie doesn't really have music, and that again is to build up this form of intensity, this form of ongoing pursuit of trying to find the truth, and it's a way of building up that anxiety, and it works for this movie, and I like it. This movie was not filmed, at least a majority of it, was not filmed in a Hollywood backlot. This movie was filmed at a greater part of Chicago, at least towards its actual locations, or so it claims. And from what I've seen and from what I've listened to on the documentary and the commentary, that most of these shots was filmed on site. So it gives that film a more realistic feel. Sorry, I couldn't think of a better word for it. But that is what he was going for, and that's what he got. And it shows. And it works. However, I believe what worked better for this film was not so much the location or locations, but it was that of the pace, and the pacing of this movie was very well done. It was fantastic, and it spent no time lingering on shots that was unnecessary. This movie was very quick. It went right to the scene, and it showed you exactly what it had to do, and it didn't spend too much time showing you like artistic looks towards a film or just lingering on wasted scenes. This movie spends no time on any waste. It is clean cut, properly edited, and I enjoyed that part of this movie. In fact, that's probably my favorite part of how they just move from one scene to the next, not wasting time. Sometimes in a lot of these movies, especially a noir film, or at least a lot of them that I've seen, that it will spend a lot of time lingering on unnecessary shots that it was nothing was to be seen just to show a certain angle, and it led to nowhere. This movie doesn't do that. So if it's pointing you towards a particular spot, it wants you to focus on that spot. And the deep focus camera work is very well done in this movie. I think he perfected it in 14 hours, in my opinion, but it is done very well, nevertheless. Another great thing about this movie that it stars James Stewart. He steals this entire movie. His performance is very well. It is right down to the point, and he does a great job in this movie. Now, you may not know about this, is that he was into Hollywood quite a while. 3 of his supposedly big hits, at least for today, it was Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, The Philadelphia Story, and It's a Wonderful Life. But he was getting a feeling that he wasn't going anywhere with movies, so he actually was considered backing out of Hollywood. It wasn't until this movie, at the age of 40, that he was well known and everyone recognized him, to which later in the same year he did a movie with Alfred Hitchcock called Rope, and he became a staple toward Alfred Hitchcock films. So this movie helped put him in the spotlight, and just had to think, at the age of 40, he did pretty well for himself. I think another thing I like about this movie is that the actress, the one who played the mother of Witchek, I can't remember her name. She is a great actress, and her role was fantastic. The way how she presented the mother, it felt like you want to care for her, and that she wasn't just some side person that you just always had to hear her crying and whining. You see the emotion that went through her face, and the way she said it through certain tones, it was fantastic. I loved her in this movie. However, unfortunately, when I did my notes and I was looking up, she didn't do very many movies. She only did not even 10, I think. So she didn't do that much in the movies, but she did a fantastic job in this movie, and I very much appreciate her in her role. The actor, Richard Conte, who played as Frank Witchek, has probably been best known to play villains in movies, and you may remember him best in the movie The Godfather. So if you're wondering why does his face look so familiar, it's because of that movie The Godfather. However, this is a good movie. I very much enjoy it. It is something that has a great pacing, has very decent acting. The only thing I did not like in this movie was the voiceover narrator. I wish this movie did not have a narrator. This movie would do so much better without it, but because it was the time, the way how the movie was filmed, it was a very common thing. It was just repetitive to me because it was like, okay, I know he is searching. Yes, I know this person is being redeemed. Yes, I know he's investigating through stations. You had a narrator telling you every aspect, and it got on my nerves a couple of times, but oh well. So if you do get a chance, be sure to check out this movie and watch it because it's really good. This is the movie that put James Stewart on the spot for Hollywood and made a name for himself in Hollywood. So that is my review for this movie. This movie was not rated, and if you're curious to know what's inside the movie, it's right here. Very mild, very tame. I would basically say it's rated G because there's not really too much violence other than the very beginning of a cop getting shot. That's really it. Okay, and there was a couple of drunk scenes, so I don't know. You can take that for what you want. So be sure to subscribe, like, comment down below. Let me know a noir film that you enjoyed, and you could possibly put down a recommendation because I might have time to squeeze in a recommendation review. I think I'm pretty booked up for this month, but let's see. I probably would have enough time towards the end of this month. I guess I'll find out. But that's it. So I will see you around until the next review. So take care. Have a lovely day. Cheers. Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. It was the Philadelphia story. Sorry. And you could say, so long.